Esküszöm Istenre és az unokáimra, ez a módszer néhány nap alatt visszaadta a hallásomat. Ha meg akarod őrizni a hallásod, soha ne hagyd figyelmen kívül a fülzúgást. Megmutatok egy otthoni receptet egy hétköznapi hozzávalóval, amiről korábban senki sem beszélt. Ez végleg megszünteti a zúgást, és visszaadja a hallást mindössze 3 nap alatt. Nincs szükség tablettákra, készülékekre vagy szenvedésre. 7 évig tűrtem és vártam a javulást, de csak rosszabb lett. Szörnyű tüneteim voltak, állandó sípolás a fülemben, nyomás a fejemben, szédülés és álmatlanság. Néha olyan erős volt a zaj, hogy tehetetlenségemben sírtam. Az interneten láttam egy rövid videót, ahol egy orvos beszélt egy egyszerű otthoni módszerről. Ez helyreállítja a hallóideget, megtisztítja az ereket, javítja a vérkeringést, és nyugalmat ad az agynak. A recept mindössze 30 másodpercet vesz igénybe, és még a legsúlyosabb esetekben is működik. Este alkalmazod, és már reggel halkabb a zúgás, a hangokat pedig tisztábban hallod. Más megoldásokkal ellentétben, amelyek csak átmeneti hatást hoztak, ez a módszer, az orvos szerint, magát az okot célozza meg. Az állandó zúgást, a tompa hallást és a beszédértési nehézségeket. Ha állandó zajban élsz, nem hallod a szeretteidet, és szégyelsz visszakérdezni. Ez a recept neked való. Nem csak a zajt szünteti meg, hanem visszaadja a hallásodat is. A legfontosabb, hogy ez a módszer segít megelőzni a hallás további romlását. Elég naponta egyszer, lefekvés előtt alkalmazni, és még a legsúlyosabb esetekben is hatásos. Ne tűrj tovább, ne várd meg, míg végleg rosszabb lesz. Kattints a további információ gombra, és nézd meg a rövid videót, hogy újra hallhassd a világot.
With some dictionaries, if you try to look up a phrasal verb like put down, it will redirect you to the root verb put. This makes it harder to find the information you need. Good online dictionaries let you look up phrasal verbs and idioms directly. Test 6. Is the information presented in a clear, organized way? And is the dictionary website easy to use? This test is more subjective, of course. Finally, we looked for any other features which might be useful for English learners. Remember, if you want to see the full test results, check out the page on our website. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find a link in the video description. So, how did our 9 dictionaries do? Cambridge didn't do very well, which is a shame because it had been my go-to online dictionary before I started making this video. Firstly, it is not complete. It doesn't contain all the possible definitions of a word. Plus, it doesn't have a complete list of related phrasal verbs, idioms, and collocations. On the other hand, for beginners or intermediate learners, there are some good example sentences. The definitions are well written and clear. It does also show the UK and US pronunciation of a word, with audio, so that's a positive. It doesn't clearly show verb complements and structures. Overall, I can't recommend it. One of the biggest problems is that 3 different dictionaries are combined on one page. There's a British English dictionary, an American English dictionary, and a business English dictionary. This makes it confusing to use because different information is in different places and not always where you might expect it. I won't spend more time on it because there are much better dictionaries you can use. Longman was number 1 in our tests. It's by far the most complete dictionary I found. It contained all the information you might need, every definition of the word, possible verb complements, phrasal verbs, idioms, everything you might need is there. Not only that, but they have example sentences, and many example sentences have audio, at least for some words. That makes it a great resource for practicing pronunciation. At the bottom of the page, they also have a large number of examples taken from natural English texts. You can look up phrasal verbs and other word combinations directly. Even the longer phrase, "know what you're talking about," has its own entry with dedicated examples. That's impressive. When you're learning English, you'll often hear that you need to learn language in chunks. This is good advice, so it's great that there are dictionaries which can help you to do this. There's one minor criticism. It gives you the UK and US pronunciations of a word, but it doesn't clearly show which is which. For reference, the UK pronunciation is given first and the US pronunciation second. Longman also has a number of useful features for English learners. If you look up a verb, you can find a verb tense table which lists all the forms and tenses. Finally, it has a good thesaurus which gives you alternative words and also explains what they mean and how they're different from the base word. Generally, I found Longman one of the easiest dictionaries to use. Information is organized and presented nicely, and the page is relatively clean without unnecessary clutter. Dictionary.com isn't really a dictionary in its own right. Instead, it collects information from many dictionaries. In summary, I don't recommend it for English learners. It's reasonably complete, although you won't find much information on idioms and collocations. More importantly, the information is not well organized. A lot of info is hidden behind "see more" links, but there doesn't seem to be any logic to what's hidden and what's displayed immediately. Plus, because it collects information from different dictionaries on a single page, the information is divided into different sections, but not in a logical way. This makes it harder to find what you need. It doesn't do a good job of showing related phrasal verbs, idioms, and collocations. You also can't look up phrasal verbs directly, which is a big disadvantage. Collins has some positive features. It scored 4 out of 5 for completeness. It has clear explanations with examples for each definition. However, a couple of things could be better. Our test word, talk, can be both a noun and a verb. Most dictionaries will separate the noun and verb definitions, which makes sense. Collins mixes them together in a list. It's not bad, but it seems strange, and I think it could be confusing for some users. Also, it gives some information about complements and structures, but it's not so clear. They highlight the structures used in their example sentences, but there's no dedicated information on what structures are possible and what they mean. Finally, like some other dictionaries in our list, Collins tries to combine results from different dictionaries on one page. I think this is terrible design because you might not even realize there are more parts to the page. You see the definitions and explanations. You get down to here and that looks like the end, right? But then there's more, a British dictionary, an American dictionary, and more examples and idioms. Overall, not bad, but it's not the best. Lexico is one of the best dictionaries we tested. I highly recommend it, especially for learners at an intermediate or lower level. Even if you're a higher level learner, give Lexico a try. Why? Because it's so clear and well organized. For example, it gives you one example sentence for each definition, but you can also click to see more if you want. That's a really nice feature. You just need a simple example? You can have it. You want more? You can have that too. In general, Lexico does the best job of presenting a large amount of information in a clear, logical way. However, it's also fully complete. Only 2 dictionaries scored 100% in our completeness tests, Longman and Lexico. Plus, information on phrasal verbs, collocations, and idioms is nicely separated, and you can look up longer phrases directly. For example, if you look up an idiom like talk the talk directly, you'll find a dedicated page.